My tag team partner and I are here to talk to you about one of the most broken feats you could ever hope to make use of in your career as a Macho Mage. Hello there, everyone. Welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Joining me is one of my most adorable co-hosts, Finn, apprentice storyteller, uninitiated as yet to any circles of lore, though he is mastering the way of the voice. Well, starting his mastery of the way of the voice is more accurate, but today we are here to keep going with our first edition Pathfinder Wizard Guide, and there was something we wanted to talk about, something I wanted to cover here that I think is worth covering, if for no other reason than being forewarned is forearmed. And it's about a particular feat that many of you who are longtime DMs might actually know exactly where this is heading and have already started eye-rolling and groaning. We're going to talk about the Sacred Geometry feat. Now, when we cover this, you might be inclined to think, wow, that sounds like some third-party nonsense. That sounds like some homebrew that wasn't really tested all that well. No, this is out of an official supplement from Paizo, and it's ridiculous. But, like I said, it's still worth covering and worth knowing about, and we're doing it separately away from the main part of the feat guide. That'll be coming this Saturday. This is going to take up a lot of time. But before we get into all of that, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or if you've already gone on ahead and listed yourself on such an incredible roster of legendary heroes, then go on down to hit the like button and share the video far and wide. But now, let's talk about Sacred Geometry. If I could actually speak properly without blurring my words together. So, the prerequisites for this are Intelligence 13 and Knowledge Engineering, and this is an instance where if your DM allows you to take this feat, then it is going to be worth putting points into Knowledge Engineering. Maybe not all the points possible, but certainly if you hit about 6, 7 of them, you're probably going to be just fine. What this feat lets you do is select 2 Metamagic feats that you don't have when you pick this feat up. If you can complete the following steps when casting a spell to spontaneously apply the effects of both feats without increasing the spell level, as well as any other Metamagic feats you know, using the feat in this way increases spell casting time as if you were a sorcerer or bard using Metamagic. The Quicken Spell Metamagic feat negates this increase, however. This feat can be taken more than once, selecting new Metamagic feats each time. The first step is to determine the effective level of the modified spell you're casting with the Metamagic feats being applied. So if you're picking out 2 Metamagic feats, one applies a +2 increase, the other one applies a +3, and a third applies a +1, that's a total of a +6 spell level modifier. So if you cast a 2nd level spell, it's now effectively an 8th level spell. Second, you have to refer to the prime constants table to see which prime constants are needed to cast the spell at its effective level. Luckily enough, this is on the Pathfinder system reference document online and is readily available to be checked and looked at. I'll try to remember to post it either in the comments or in the description down below for even easier referencing. Then we go on from there to the third step. Roll a number of d6s equal to the number of ranks you have in Knowledge Engineering, and use a combo of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division with the rolled numbers to get one of the prime constants. Fourth, if you get one of the prime constants, the spell is cast with all applied Metamagic effects using the spell's original spell slot. Concentration check DCs still use the effective spell level, however, so if you have something that could potentially be interrupting your casting of the spell, you're going to have to use that modified concentration check DC. Now, for example, if a wizard wants to add the enlarged and empowered feats to magic missile, the magic missile they just cast, they have to add the level increases of the metamagic effects to the spell level. 2 for Empower, +1 for Enlarge, and then +1 for Metamagic's base spell level, for an effective level of 4. The wizard refers to the prime constants table and determines that the prime constants for the effective spell are 31, 37, and 41. Since the wizard has 5 ranks in knowledge engineering, they roll 5d6, getting 6, 6, 4, 3, and 1. Now they do the following operations to get one of the prime constants needed. 6 times 6, then 4 minus 3, add those together, times 1 for 37, I think, if I did that math right. I copied over the example there. I might be mixing that up since I'm handling an apprentice at the moment, but you can still see the mathematical equation there. You can see where this gets to be a bit of a problem already. This can really grind a game down to a halt if a wizard is applying this to even 1 or 2 spells per game. But luckily, the Sacred Geometry Calculator app is available online and for smartphones and really speeds this up. But now you're diving into the opposite end of that problem, where instead of this feat grinding the game to a halt so somebody can figure out the mathematics necessary to get to a prime constant, now they have a calculator that makes that instant at the snap of their fingers. But now you're dealing with just about every spell that they're going to cast having all of these effects applied to them, making every spell incredibly powerful. Joining us now is my other most adorable co-host, Nora, journeyman storyteller and initiate to the 8th circle of lore. I'm doing it really quick. Oh, don't worry, it's on here. I'm just recording and reading from this. You know what? Hold on, folks. I'm just going to pause this for a moment, and I'm going to go take care of my apprentices real fast. Be right back. Welcome back, folks. Now, let's go back over this here. So, we're talking about the Sacred Geometry feat, and now I have an example lined up here of how this can get pretty ridiculous. And this probably isn't even the most powerful combination that you could come up with, but even still, it should just kind of provide a case for why you want to be very careful and considered in allowing something like sacred geometry into any of your games. So, to start off with, let's say our wizard has gone with the admixture school. They're going to have the intense spells feature, giving a bonus, if they're at level 18, of plus 9 damage. If they cast Fireball, they can change it from fire to acid damage. And remember, acid is one of the least resisted, least number of creatures who are outright immune to it kind of energy types out there. Then, if they use Sacred Geometry, they can have it apply the Cherry Blossom spell Metamagic feat for a plus 3 bonus, Intensified spell at another plus 1, and Sickening spell for plus 2 for an effective level of 9. Because remember, Fireball is a 3rd level spell, so altogether we come up to an effective level of 9. If you can't cast a 9th level spell, then you can't use this combination. But with all of this put together here, Intensified spell bumps up the damage to 15d6 instead of 10d6. Then Intense spells gives another plus 9 bonus there, and we have this dealing damage as an acid ball, which is just such a cool visual effect. With Fortitude saves to avoid being sickened for 3 rounds and losing 2 Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, or Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma via Cherry Blossom to all targets in the area of effect. Now, I put Fortitude saves on there because that's normally what's stipulated if these feats are applied to a spell that doesn't normally deal hit point damage. But since this does do hit point damage and it has a save feature using reflex, it would actually be a reflex save in this instance. Just Sickened and Cherry Blossom will default to Fortitude saves if saves aren't normally allowed. So that's just something to note there. But you can see how ridiculous this is. I mean, 15d6, you're looking at a minimum of of 15 points of damage, and the maximum, I can't do the math off the top of my head there, but let's just say the average comes out to 3 damage per dice, so you're looking at 15d6 at 3 there, so that's 15, 30, 45 points of damage plus another 9, so 54 points of damage on average to each target if they fail their save. And if they fail, they're sickened for 3 rounds, and they take all that stat damage as well, too. Another thing to note, although we'll get into Cherry Blossom later when we cover all the other feats we want to take a look at, but Cherry Blossom only affects living creatures or creatures that are vulnerable to aging effects. So, again, mostly mortals, but things like most outsiders, golems, or construct creatures, undead are not going to be affected by this. But living creatures, and you're going to fight plenty of living creatures, are. But even if, say, you hit 5 targets and one of them is an outsider, and that outsider's immune to the aging effect, they're still taking 15d6 plus 9 acid damage, or half if they save for it. Or, none if they make a successful save and they have features that let them avoid that. But they can still potentially, depending on what their vulnerabilities are, they could potentially be sickened. And dealing damage and having sickened effects on there and other secondary effects just makes blasting spells so much more effective. And Sacred Geometry just kicks everything into overdrive. And remember, that's 54 damage per target on top of them potentially being sickened and losing stats. So 5 targets taking 54 points of damage, that's just huge. That's massively huge. You might kill those targets outright. So all of that just needs to be taken into account there. So what do we do about this? Well, me personally, I would not be opposed to my players taking this because they know that if they can do it, I can do it too. It doesn't mean I'll punish them at every single turn, but they'll know that it's an option for me that I will probably make use of or find ways to shut down. This is another reason why you should always geek the mage first. But that aside, if you want to allow it, but you don't want this to be so broken, what can you do? Well, first things first, I would say make it so that you can only take this once, since it allows you to apply other metamagic feats anyways. And from there, I would say limit the number of additional metamagic feats that you can add. Because, well, there's already a hard limit in that you can't really go above effective level 9th, as far as I know. I tried looking to see if there was anything saying that you couldn't cast an effective 10th level spell, 12th level spell. At best, it would default to 9th, but I think overall, I would rule that that's just outright not an option. Just outright not an option to exceed that. But even then, I would say maybe limit it to 3 metamagic feats tops. 3 metamagic feats tops that can be applied. They can pick and choose which ones they want to apply, but they can't do any more than 3. That's what my limit would be. But even at 3, you can see here already that that's really staggeringly effective even still. But it does limit it a little bit, because otherwise, if you allow the players to be able to select Sacred Geometry multiple times, then they don't even really need to worry about picking out metamagic feats, because they can just pick out 2 each time and get 2 feats for the price of 1. So they've selected 3 times, they have 6 metamagic feats. That's probably going to be all they really need. And then they just use the Sacred Geometry rules to allow them to apply those feats spontaneously for free, basically. So all of that needs to be taken into account there. What other things I might recommend? I don't know. A lot of DMs just outright ban it, and understandably so. I don't blame them. I would probably, like I said, I would probably allow my players to do it, but I might find out that I only want to let them do it once. Or, if my players I tend to trust, they try not to be super abusive with things, maybe they wouldn't do this all the time, because you could reason out that roleplay wise, okay, this is a very specialized effect. This would be relatively taxing for a wizard. Maybe they would roleplay that in some way. Maybe they'd have some additional effect. I'm not sure, but It's hard to say what exactly you could do to curb the effectiveness of this, other than, the obvious of letting the players only select this feat once, and then, just locking it out from there. And I guess another thing you could do is if they can only select it once, maybe they can only select 3 Metamagic feats that they could apply to this. Not just 3 of any ones that they know, just 3 Metamagic feats, period, that they pick out. Maybe as they advance in level and select other feats, they can change it out. But from there, those are just some ideas and suggestions. Really, I could spitball and theorize here a lot of different ways, but I just don't know what your comfort levels are and how you would want to go about it to suit your table. So it can be kind of weird to make those suggestions for something that is so wildly broken. But what do you think? Go on down to the comments below and let me know your thoughts. Did you like today's video? Did you dislike it? Let me know your thoughts either way in the comments down below. Hit those like or dislike buttons and we'll engage in discussion. And remember, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamers Den. But with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night.